So today in the garage, we're going to be giving the shopping cart Gokart a little makeover. I'm planning on painting all the little components to try to give it a really cool look. There's going to be 4 steps: disassembly, prep, paint, and assembly. Alright, so I'm just going to jump straight in and show you the disassembly.
They told me I wasn't gonna get far. So I told them like this, look. My adversaries crumble when we rumble. It's a catastrophe on anybody who tryna hate, come and blasting me. I've been in this for a minute. See how I graduated from rookie to beginner, but now I'm winning on the road. Backing up and selling our shows, but let's rewind the tape a bit and let them all know who came to rock the floor, Jay, who knocks the most. Willis. I creep up on the come up, whether they hate it or feel this. Next in line to come and battle me quick. Man, you don't wanna see me in the circle. I'm killing you, kid. Young Jay, I'm bad. They told me I wasn't gonna get far. So I told them like this, look. Who's back? Watch me lean back, see how I ride. I gotta do my thing. Check 1, 2 on the mic, and when we go, you know there ain't no stopping us, right? Because we party every day just like it's 1999. Watch me lean back, see how I ride. I gotta do my thing. Check 1, 2 on the mic, and when we go, you know there ain't no stopping us, right? Because we party every day just like it's 1999. I put everybody that want any issues in a line. Step 'em up, I started out battle rapping, so I can just flip the script in a minute to these rhymes. See, that's a whole school of wannabe rappers that's out of lines. Why? Question this reckless question with next generation, no extra linguistics. Mess up in this mind, gone out of control. Left for dead if somebody ever took a shot. You press the hit and I never ride, forever on top. I'm up to date with 7 albums, when will it stop? My steady grind, signing checks, I still get the guap. And you still hate, I'm diverse, just give it a shot. Till then, watch me lean back, see how I ride. I gotta do my thing. Check 1, 2 on the mic, and when we go, you know there ain't no stopping us, right? Because we party every day just like it's 1999. Watch me lean back, see how I ride. I gotta do my thing. Check 1, 2 on the mic, and when we go, you know there ain't no stopping us, right? Because we party every day just like it's 1999.
I'm light years, call me eons. When the snare kick in, the beat is neon. Lights, yeah, I'm feeling magnificent. Care less what I'm up against. Yeah, you know I stay fresh like peppermint. And I dive head first when I jump in it. I run it back like a champ, won't fumble it. And you ain't gotta ask, you know we running it. Flip the script and keep y'all wondering. Hot topic, I stay bubbling. Big pesos, I don't take no. Try to keep up. Ready, set, go.
Are you feeling yourself?
Yeah, I'm feeling myself.
Are you feeling yourself?
Yeah, I'm feeling myself.
Are you feeling yourself?
Yeah, I'm feeling myself.
Are you feeling yourself?
Yeah, I'm feeling myself. Are you feeling yourself?
Yeah, I'm feeling myself.
Are you feeling yourself?
Yeah, I'm feeling myself.
Are you feeling yourself?
Yeah, I'm feeling myself.
Alright, so it's looking pretty good. It's almost there. I just need to remove the back axle and the front little knuckles in the steering wheel and the seat, but we'll get that in a second. So what I'm trying to do is get the whole frame bare so I can hang it up and prep it, and I'm probably going to prep and paint the rims too, and everything else is just going to be polished. The tires I'm probably going to replace those. As you can see, they're super bare, so we'll go ahead and do that. Alright, so I got it mostly disassembled. Really all the parts right here, you can see there's not really a whole lot of parts, just the knuckles, tie rods, pedals, steering wheel, the engine, the cage, and the frame. So what I'm going to do from here is clean it up, get the tape off there, cut the zip ties off, get everything down bare to the frame, even take the little stickers off, and I'm just going to completely wash it. There's a couple of metal spots, but I'm going to wash it in acetone afterwards and grind all the spots down. So I don't think it's going to be that much of an issue. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and start washing it. Alright, so I just got back from the pressure washer. It's all clean, doesn't have any dirt, grease on it. So all I have to do is go through and tear it all down with 120 on a DA, and then I'll get the creases with a DuraBlock. And I need to take the DuraBlock and do all of this. I'm going to be using epoxy primer on this, so 120, 220 is okay to use because it already has a grip and a pretty high build to fill the scratches. But doing it this way is a lot better in this case because it will actually stick. The epoxy primer is probably the best thing you could use. Alright, so I thought I could just sand it off with maybe some 100 or 120 grit, but it just takes way too much time and kind of just messes the pads up. So this is the main thing you're going to want to use for this, is a eraser bit. Some people don't use these. They don't really know if they work or not, and they will, and a lot of times it's for like removing like stickers on your car or like adhesives that don't really mess up the paint underneath. But in this case we can be really rough with it because I'm already going to repaint this, so it doesn't really matter how the paint, if it gets messed up or not. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on the drill and then just get to taking it off. Alright, so you can see there's definitely some residue left, but most of this just comes up. It's just residual residue from all the stuff in the eraser bit. Because all the shavings you've seen weren't the adhesive or the sticker kind of shredding apart. It's actually the bit, because it's basically just like a big eraser bit, like off a pencil. So once you get all this stuff off, as you see, I hit it pretty hard. It didn't even damage the paint at all. I might just leave it black, but there's some parts that I couldn't get to. So we'll go from there. So I'm going to try to do this frame with 1 can of the 2K red along with the 1 can of the primer. So how I'm going to try to manage to do that is to save supplies, and because it's probably not going to see it and it needs to be durable anyways. This bottom side I'm going to do with undercoating, which is basically like that truck bed undercoating you see. And this side, it really just needs to be buffed out because the paint's pretty good on that side. So the bottom side I'm probably just going to leave black, and this side is going to be undercoating, but all the tubular framing is going to be red on it. Alright, so I'm going to use SEM primer, which is the self-etching primer, just on the metal spots. And so it doesn't really matter how I lay it down because I'm just going to do it on the metal spots. So I'll go ahead and show you that. But you got to make sure you wear a respirator, especially when painting self-etching primer. So I'll let that set up for like 10, maybe 15 minutes, and then hit it with the undercoating. Alright, so it's all set up and ready to hit, so I'm going to be using this pro grade undercoating. So let's get it. I'm going to do 3 light coats. Alright, so that's looking pretty good. It still needs to dry. You can see some wet spots in it, but after it dries for 24 hours, I'm going to come back and mask it off and get all the framing prepped and ready for paint, and then I'm going to go ahead and just paint it the red. So for this part, what I'm going to do is just clean it all up because this is just residue from the eraser bit. So I'm going to clean that up and probably put some vinyl in there, or I might paint it later. But I'm going to only paint this tubular framing, all the tube, red. And the cage is going to be painted black, so you'll get to see that. Alright, so while I'm waiting for this to set up, I'm going to go ahead and start sanding the cage. It's going to be pretty straightforward because I don't have to do any little body work to it like this. I have to go back and feather out these lines so it will be all smooth once it's painted. This, I'm not really going to have to do that. It's really just scuff it down. But the thing about it is that there's all like these nicks and crevices all around it. So I'm going to have to, I think what I'm going to do is get in here put some sandpaper around here. And just get in there like that to every one of these crevices. Once I'm done with that, then this will be ready for epoxy. Alright, these are kind of a pain, so what I resorted to doing is just going back to the Durablock with some, I think it's 180 in this, and I'm just going ahead and sanding all these just diagonally on both sides, and then I flip it, so you get to see that. So I'm just about done with the cage. I hung it up so it's a little bit easier to access some of the spots, and I'm just gonna go ahead and paint it just like that when I'm ready. And the frame, I'm gonna hang it up too. I just need some more rope. So for now, I'm gonna go ahead and paint these rims. So I'm gonna eventually get more rims for these, and the rims altogether are only like 80 bucks. So I'm not gonna spend 80 bucks doing it the right way when I can just get better rims. So what I'm going to do is just scuff them down and hit them with the, it's just like a single stage enamel black. I'll show you when I go to paint it. But all I'm going to do is just scuff it down, make sure all the big areas are kind of feathered out, and make sure there's no shine on it. Like you can see some shine in there on the crevice. And hit the metal spots with acid etch and just hit it with the single stage enamel. And then they'll look good enough to put on. Alright, so they're all masked off and ready to go, so I'm going to hit it with the vacuum and hit it with the wax and grease remover after that. So I already wiped these once, but I'm going to go through and wipe them all again in one direction, just to ensure that the surface is clean. Like, see, there's a little bit of dirt there. Alright, I'm going to start by hitting it with some of the self-etching primer and just the bare metal spots, like those and those. Some over here, so go ahead and do that. Alright, so I let the acid etch build on there. It needs to set for at least 15 minutes. I put a little bit on the white just for the extra grip because the acid etch has an acid in it that etches into the metal. And there was a couple of metal spots around the bead, so I'm just going to wait for 15 minutes and lay down the single stage enamel coat. Alright, so I gotta wait 15 minutes. That's after the first coat. I put pretty thick of a coat on there, so I'm gonna wait for 15-20 minutes until it dries. Put put on another coat and do the same process. So I'm going to do it 3 times to put 3 even coats on it. So I'll show you guys what it looks like when it's done. Alright, now I got plastic down, everything's prepped, and put a little bit of water on the floor. And now I'm just wiping them down with wax and grease remover, getting them all ready. When I'm done with that, we're probably going to start painting. Alright, so I'm getting ready to paint the frame and the cage. It's all wiped down and ready to go. So I'm going to be using this 2K epoxy primer by Spray Max. It's really good stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and pop it and shake it up for a couple, probably a minute or two. And then get an even coat on all these parts. And I have to wait 15 minutes before I can paint it. Alright, so unfortunately I got one of these can of primers that was ineffective. So this usually doesn't happen, but I ordered this on Amazon, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But I'm gonna have to contact them and send it back. But you see how this one, you can kind of hear the shaker. Here's a full can, even though this is the single stage. It's still the same concept. You can kind of hear it. And this one, this hasn't been sprayed at all. You can't hear anything. So what has happened is somehow this has gotten popped and it hardened in the can. So yeah, this is basically trash. So I was able to get the frame completely coated like I thought with one can, but I'm not going to be able to do this one. But luckily for me, the single stage I was going to use to it is a direct to metal. And there's not really even that much metal. It's like all the paint that was on there was already epoxy paint, so it didn't really come off. There's only a few metal spots, so I think this will go ahead and just put on it. It's better to have the primer, but in this case I'm not gonna buy another one and wait another week, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. But what I'm gonna do so the black doesn't get on the red and the red doesn't get on the black is, because I already primed this, I'm gonna go ahead and throw red on this. Tomorrow I'm gonna come out after it's already dried, start putting the wheels on while I paint this one. So I'm going to go ahead and paint this, and then I'll come back out tomorrow. Alright, so I put some plastic over the cage just for some added protection. So I'm going to go ahead and shake this can up. I'm going to shake it without popping it for about, like 30 seconds to a minute, a good, decent amount of time. And then pop it, and of course shake it for probably a minute, same amount of time. Just make sure that it's really mixed. So yeah, I'm just going to make sure I lay it down really even because the red is really transparent. And yeah, we'll see how this goes. Alright, so I got it painted and unhung it, put it on the rims. So now I'm going to put a piece of plastic over that. That way no overspray gets on it, and go ahead and start getting ready to paint the cage. As soon as I get the cage painted, then I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of the parts on and make sure they're all torqued down and snugged up. Definitely use some Loctite on it too, because it gets beat the fuck up. And then fit the cage on it, and we'll be all good to go. And probably coming up soon, might end up doing the tires and the little things, but right now I'm just trying to make it look all nice. Alright, so I covered the Gokart in plastic. The rest of the parts are on top of that cardboard box covered in plastic. So I'm probably gonna have to wash the floor and everything, but everything that I don't want overspray to get on is under the plastic. So that's basically how I do it, painting in the garage in here. And usually I lay a little water on the floor. Probably do that in a second, but the main important thing is when you're shooting this, it's kind of hard to paint this tubular framing, so I like to go from a downward angle because this is hanging upside down. You always want to paint it the way you're going to look at it, so you don't paint it upside down, take it, flip it right side up, and then you see a bunch of bald spots. So I'm going to go ahead and start shooting it. I'm going to shoot the metal spots with a little bit of self-etch because the primer messed up on me, so I couldn't use a primer. So the self-etch will give it a good grip, but the 2K black is going to be perfect on there. Alright, so I'm pretty much done putting the black on the cage. I need to touch up a few other spots, but for the main part, it's fully covered. So I can go ahead and get rid of the plastic and start cleaning out the garage, which I really need to do. You can tell it's pretty trashed in here. So the next steps on this thing is really to just reassemble it, which is just reversing the steps that I took to disassemble it. So after I'm done with the reassembly, that'll be pretty much it for this one. On some new upcoming videos, I want to do some more mods to this thing, but I'm not going to do it all right now. But the main goal is to take this thing and totally transform it from the original state I bought it in, which it already looks 100 times better with just the paint. So without further ado, I think I'm going to go ahead and start. Alright, I'm going to start assembling the front end and getting everything pieced together. I'll just play it in fast forward so you can see how I did it. It's just going to be the reverse of how I took it apart. Alright, I got the pedals and the tie rods on, so I think what I'm going to do next is put the throttle cable in, and after I'm done with the throttle cable, the brake lever, and then I'm going to put the cage and then the seat. So I lied, so I'm not going to put the cage last, but I think after that it'll be really everything I need to make sure it's out of the way of everything. So I'll go ahead and put it on, and it'll be almost done. So that shows you a little idea of what we're working with. I don't know how it looks on camera, but in person, honestly, this thing looks pretty cool. So I eventually plan on getting a new gas tank for the Predator and getting a new pull cord cover, and well, basically a new pull cord too, because this one got burnt. But I'm gonna airbrush, I'll have it on another video, but I'm gonna airbrush the shroud and have it a cool color combination that kind of matches the red. That way the whole thing kind of flows together. So honestly, from when I first got it, it looks a lot better. So yeah, I'll probably show you a picture when I first got it. And then now. So yeah, so all I gotta do is put the seat on, put the engine back on, and then I'll start it up and we can see how it's gonna go. it's actually looking like a go-kart now. So I'm gonna eventually get the seat replaced and do the things that are kind of necessary for it. But for now, what I think I'm gonna do is clean the oil off the bottom of the engine and put it on here. Last time I actually rode it, I forgot to torque down the drain plug on the actual Predator. I'll show you. I had to borrow one from another one that I had, but right here is a drain plug that will remove all your oil. And I went riding, I kind of smelt some oil, I pulled it back around and realized this was missing. So I didn't blow the engine, but we'll probably have an engine rebuild coming up. I also need to put that one back together. So that one stalled on me and it ended up just being a valve spring, but because these are all stock. But what I'm gonna do is clean that one off, put an oil change in it, put it on there, get the throttle adjusted, everything, and start it up. I guess it doesn't really matter if I spill it, it's already really fucking dirty. But this only has about half a quart in there, so I don't have to worry too much. Alright, so I got it cleaned up for the most part, so I go ahead and put the dipstick back in there. And set everything up. Alright, so I got all the bolts in place, so I'm just going to go ahead and put the nuts on the bolts and tighten each one down in a crosshatch pattern. Alright, so funny story. Last time I actually went out and drove this thing, I was like just drifting around the neighborhoods, and the actual chain snapped on me, so I have to order a new chain, which I can show you guys. I might put a video on how to find the right pitch, because it's kind of hard to find the right chain you need if you don't know the exact chain. But other than that, the rest I'm going to do to this thing is go ahead and hook the throttle cable up and maybe show you guys a little POV action. Alright, so on these Predators and most of these little Gokart clone engines, all you gotta do is take off these two nuts and this whole exhaust box comes off, which I want to get a new air filter in there. But all I'm going to do is simply put this through here and connect it to this cable. That way when this cable gets pulled, it pulls this back. So this still has the original governor set up, and I don't know if I'm going to get rid of the governor, because you have to put a billet flywheel on, and I want to get it to where I have an electric start, so there's keys and I can have a battery and lights and all that. So I'm not sure if the electric start flywheel with the magnetic coils, I'm not sure if those will let me spin above like 36 RPM or whatever it is. So for now, I get enough power and I can go about 40, so it's perfectly fine with the governor still intact. So that being said, I left the original throttle mechanism just for the time being, so I'll go ahead and set that up. Alright, so I already removed one bolt, so I'm going to go ahead and take off the restrictive exhaust, and just while I warm it up, I'm going to leave this off because I'm not going to go ride it around or anything, and you guys can actually see how this thing breathes, and this is completely stock internal, so we'll go ahead and see how that works. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and tighten these so I don't misplace them. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the choke on. Well, I guess that way's on, and go ahead and start it. summing up on this episode of The Garage. Thanks, and make sure you like and subscribe so you can keep updated on this build. See you next time.